Welcome back to the New York Times Close-Up. It all looked great on paper, the real estate boom, a neighborhood that was becoming increasingly trendy. One Madison Park had success written all over it until it didn't. Katrina Brooker looked at the plans, the developer's complicated finances, and the result, this week's Sunday magazine story. You had a strange assignment. Big building sitting there looming over Madison Park, and you were asked to find out, why is the building empty? And the answer?
Well, it was a strange assignment. The assignment was exactly that. Why is this building empty? And I thought it was going to be a much simpler answer than it turned out to be. But I think this building really has a personality of its own. And in some ways, it encapsulates everything that went wrong with the real estate boom and bust. And, you know, it's at its core, it's a story about these two friends who... Best friends who had a big dream, which was they came from the suburbs to make their mark in Manhattan, and they wanted to literally make their mark on the Manhattan skyline. And in that heady days of the real estate bubble, they got $300 million. They had had no experience in Manhattan, no experience building skyscrapers, but they had all this money, and so they started to build. And in the beginning, just like lots of other places around the country, everyone felt this is going to make us a fortune, and they really believed it would make them a fortune. And then things started to take a little turn for a different turn.
Inexperience, ambition, and hubris, you said.
I did. I mean, I think inexperience is probably one of the things that a lot of the developers that I talked to, the veteran developers that I talked to around the city, what they said to me is, right now it would be impossible for developers like this to get the financing to build something like this. Because right now developers are looking for people who really know what it takes to build in Manhattan. Before I started this story, I didn't realize Manhattan is possibly one of the most difficult building sites in the world. I mean, everything you can imagine. You've got litigious neighbors, you've got tiny working spaces, draconian work permit processes. So right now it would be impossible for two inexperienced buddies from the suburbs to get that financing. And
you say there are 40 or so lawsuits pending, people just suing each other. How do they sort something like that out? It's like a he said, he said.
It is a complete he said. It's like a barroom brawl of lawsuits right now. A couple of lawyers that I spoke to for the story told me in their decades worth of practicing law, they had never seen anything quite like this. And I think when things go wrong, people start suing. I think what has made this building a little bit unusual is the just sheer volume of lawsuits, and also how complicated the lawsuits are. One lawsuit depends on the outcome of this lawsuit, and so it's this tangled web that right now the bankruptcy courts, first they have to, there's a bankruptcy case pending, which is expected to be resolved in the next couple of weeks.
And yet there's some people who probably will turn out to have been very lucky, who were living in the building in what you describe as derelict luxury.
The building is spectacular. I mean, I was blown away. I did a tour from top to bottom of the building, and the actual bones of the building, and when you look at these views, the views are unlike, I've lived in New York my whole life. I've never seen views like this.
Would you want to live there?
If I could afford it, I would. I think it's going to be every broker that I've spoken to about this building. Once the dust settles and the lawsuits have cleared, this is one of the most valuable pieces of property in the city. I mean, it's right on Madison Square Park.
Will the two original developers ever see any of that?
They will not. They will not. One has declared personal bankruptcy, and the other is responsible for over. I think his liability right now, or what he owes, is in over $50 million. So chances are very slim that any of the original equity holders are going to come out.
An amazing story. Katrina Brooker, the New York Times, her story in the Sunday Times magazine, and thank you so much for joining us.